Some say Islamic expansion in the Western world is dangerous to our ideals. Is this true? I mean, cities are approving mosques and Islamic centers. Sharia courts are in the US. Is this good or bad? We'll talk about that and a little more on this religious encroachment, no Brian episode of Mount Hermeneutics. You're listening to Mount Hermeneutics, where three Marines give their perspective on God, faith, and spirituality with a heavy lean on the divine council worldview. This is not your grandma's Sunday school, nor is it always for the Christian faint of heart. Nothing about who we are or what we say make us experts. But you better believe we'll have a take, and perhaps it won't suck.
I agree with you, Matt, intellectually that bottom line, it's God's prerogative.
That's a soundbite, by the way.
Right. It is God's prerogative.
No, I agree with you, Matt, intellectually.
She thinks your humor is, I don't understand why she thinks you're funny, but
you know I'm funny. You've always thought I was funny.
Oh boy.
You're jealous of how funny I am.
I don't know why we're friends. But remember that Mount Hermeneutics is free and available on all podcast platforms. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, iHeart.
We got to get on Netflix now. They have a podcast section on Netflix. I just saw last night.
Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow. Well, if you're watching this right now, then you're probably on YouTube. Not probably, you are on YouTube unless somebody's like streaming and posting it to their own stuff.
That'd be sick.
That would be pretty sick. But I need those views though. So if that's the case, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, the notification bell, subscribe for crying out loud. You're watching it anyway. It doesn't hurt. We only come out once a week. We're not going to flood your notifications. So with that said, as you can see, there is no Brian, but that is Matt. I am Andre Fellas, or bro. Well, so you tell you get into a rut, right? Like
Man, yeah, muscle memory, right? Even though it's the verbal muscle memory is a thing for sure. It's cold. It's really cold. Yeah, it is. As of this moment, of course, it'll be slightly warmer by the time folks are watching, but it's 13 degrees outside.
Yo.
Our lows have been single digits. I think somewhere in Oklahoma we got below zero. We froze Friday, the middle of Friday, we froze. As the sun came up, the temperature dropped, and we're not going to thaw until Wednesday. So 130 some odd hours of freezing temperatures, genuinely freezing temperatures. They had called for snowmageddon. It didn't happen.
Most the frozen tundra of the plains.
Yeah, you need the old NFL voiceover like show in Oklahoma.
The Green Bay Packers.
But everything's closed down. Churches, schools, Friday, schools are closed tomorrow. So yeah, it's been a couple of days just hanging out, wow. Lots of on-demand television, coffee, hot chocolate, that kind of thing. It's not terrible. I kind of live for this because I work from home already anyway, so not being able to get out doesn't really faze me. So
yeah, it is a balmy 59 degrees here in Oceanside, California, but it was a low of 42. Ooh. I put on a windbreaker and a beanie to walk my dogs this morning because the bald head. In fact, I could probably go shorts and t-shirt with the beanie and be good.
Right.
So it's like
or you can be like you could be like Billy Bob Thornton and you could put a beanie on and then a hat on top of the beanie.
Right. He does that with bandanas too.
Yeah, he's always got like a secondary head wrap on. I don't know what he's doing.
And he's wearing women's jeans because they fit better.
Better than the jeans he wears on Landman.
That's true. He had there was an interview where he talked about, he said, I went to the wardrobe people and I said, hey, can you get me some smaller jeans? Like, I got Allie pull my pants up all the time. It plays my wife, Angela, in the show. Yeah. So it's like, for real. Like,
he looks ridiculous. Carrie comments on it once per episode. She's like, seriously, why do his jeans look like that?
I wonder if Taylor's like, nah, leave those stupid jeans on.
It just kind of adds to his personality of not caring about like so much stuff. He's like, I don't got time for jeans that fit. I got more important crap to worry about.
Oh, Tommy. Yeah, I had quite a weekend. worked security at Nam.
Whew.
A little. It was interesting to just walk by and there's just random dudes picking up instruments and just jamming. Like nobody you've ever heard or seen before. Just a guy that decided to show up. He's like, "Hey, I play a little guitar. Do you? Let me see." So,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Dudes with horns, the saxophone section. Uh, it
Yeah.
was just complete. It was a lot of music, the place to be.
I've been to a lot of conferences in Vegas. Uh, I've been in Vegas when there was other conferences going on. NAM is one that I would definitely. I think NAM and SEMA are the two that are on my list to go to as a spectator, right? As a fan and just kind of geek out on stuff. Both would cause me to spend really ridiculous amounts of money. So it might be better that I never attend either.
I've
Um,
attended SEMA
yeah, yeah,
as a
that one.
representative of one meth, but
Really?
is
SEMA? The car
maybe.
show?
Oh no, no, not
Different
that.
SEMA?
It's a
No, 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 no.
cyber show.
SEMA, I don't even know what it stands for,
Oh,
but
S.
it's
So this is a C, huh?
yeah, yeah, it's the big like car show where all the new gizmos and
Oh,
the new hotness is getting dropped, concept cars and
that'd be fun. Yeah,
suspension systems and engine modifications and that kind of stuff. It's like car guy NAM basically.
yeah.
Uh,
I'm saw a name drop a little bit. I got to walk around with Natasha Leone, Corey Feldman. I'm just kind of going. I mean, two. If you see them on TV and you notice a certain personality, yes, that's exactly how they are in real. Both of them. Take that however you want, whether that's
that's
good or bad. If
funny.
you like those two or not, that's how they are. Um, Billy Corgan with his kids was, it's interesting whenever you see somebody in a setting like with their wife and kids and the normal conversations they have. Like I've had that exact conversation before. Like so I said, hey, you're going back to the hotel. I got to do a sound check real quick, and I got to do this other thing. Hey, kids, you want to go back with your mom or with me? And they're like, yeah, I want to go with you, Daddy. All right. Hey, why don't you take the baby and take our car? I'll ride with our driver, and then
They're
you know
working
we'll.
out the
Yeah,
logistics
yeah.
that like
It's
any
like
normal person has to work out. Yeah.
anybody who's like on a
And the
vacation
wife's
or a
like,
trip.
how much longer are you going to be here? No, baby, I promise I won't be here much longer.
Yeah,
It's only going to be like an hour.
but
You
it was
said
funny
that
because
last year.
the kids are like, oh, we want to be with you, Daddy. And wife's like, I'm out.
She said, say less.
'Cause if I had to guess, they were about 10 years old.
Yeah.
Brother and sister
Yeah. They
combo.
want to hang out because it's cool and everybody's like, fawning all over them and all that. And the wife's like, I hate this place. I hate all this junk.
You know, interesting. He was doing a sound check, which was cool because I got like basically a private show with Billy Corgan.
Mhm.
Like nobody's in. Some workers are setting up tables. That's it. And my man is like tuning his guitar, and the band is back there. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
so neat.
Let's
Yeah.
run it back. Let's run it back. And as we're in the elevator, his daughter asked him, like, "Daddy, were you a little off on that last song?"
She knows ball.
It's funny because he's like, well, that he's like, do you have trouble remembering them sometimes? He's like, well, I have trouble remembering my own, and then if I do, I know well enough, I can just play
He-
through.
yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
but that last song's not mine. I didn't write that one, so I have to work that one out. And she's like, oh yeah, it sounded like it.
It wasn't bad though, Dad. Good job, Dad. I'm proud
Yeah,
of you.
yeah, I mean, it's okay. You're How can I face my friends with a dad that has trouble getting through a set?
Right.
Like the legendary Billy Corgan.
Right. That's pretty
Uh,
cool.
uh, Teddy Riley was super cool. If you don't know who Teddy Riley is, he's a um, producer, big time on Bobby Brown's "Don't Be Cruel" album. He Blackstreet, No Diggity, no doubt. In fact, it's funny. I told my brother, I'm like, hey, I'm walking around with Teddy Riley. And he's like, No Diggity. So, so that was fun. Everybody was super gracious. I did Mike Dirnt, the of Green Day. He was a total sweetheart to everybody. And what impressed me about him is when he was doing his little autograph session, he made it a point to have a moment with every single fan that walked up,
That's cool.
whether it was their shirt or his or talk about the up at the picture or the album that they brought up. There was a Asian boy, so For all I know, he's between the ages of 8 or 15. If I had to guess, I'd say 12. And he I guess he did some stuff on Instagram, and he's like, "Oh, you know what? I saw that." He's because he said Trey liked it, the other guy from Green Day, and he said, "No, no, no, I saw that. I think you're good. Hey, do you play anything else? Well, you should. You should just pick
That's
stuff
pretty
up,
cool.
figure it out." He starts like giving his kid music advice. He says, "Hey, mom, you did a good job. I think you're doing a good job so far. Keep that up. This guy can. Who knows? This kid might be able to follow his dreams." So, he took a picture with him, and
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
always cool.
yeah, it was good.
I always wonder with like rock stars
Right.
if they started that way or if they figured it out kind of as they got older and after they had families and kids and perspective changes, or were they all, and that's not a shot at Durant or any of that, like I
Right.
don't know if he might have always
Cool. Yeah, yeah, of
um
course.
but you just wonder how much of it like they've always known, um or were they, you know shut up, I don't got time for this or whatever. I don't know, it's just, but it's always nice to see them be humans.
And he stopped for every single person who wanted a picture as we walked by. Just made time for everything and everybody. He crashed somebody recording a podcast. He just jumped in their set. And he's like, and then left. It's
Well,
like,
they're going to get tons of hits off of
right?
something like that. Yeah.
They're like, thank you.
Right.
All right, so that was cool. And also just seeing artists like in the Gibson lounge with all the guitars and just kind of just being normal, talking to
Man.
and just having conversations and just talking ball.
Yeah.
Just talking ball. Like things I
Did,
don't really understand, but it was
so just as a point of reference, I don't know what was there. There were probably a bunch of Gibson custom shop joints, but like Gibson guitars, for those that don't know, like when you see a bunch of them on someone's wall, like I have a couple of guitars in the back, whatever. I've got some hanging up on my wall. I don't have a single guitar worth more than $1,200, and I have one. Right, I have one guitar that's north of 1,000. Everything else is sub 1,000. A Gibson guitar starts at like $3,200, like the cheapest of the cheap. If it
yeah,
says Gibson, it's three plus.
they were auctioning these off.
Yeah. Oh, then they were custom shops
They
and
yeah.
or old school like genuine 1950s, 1960s. Because
Yeah.
for a Gibby to get over 10 grand is like easy.
Oh yeah,
So when
for
you
sure.
you see some of these dudes on YouTube, whatever, and they've got like a wall of Gibsons, like
Right.
there'll be like 12 Gibsons in a row, and I'm like, that's probably at least $100,000 just right there.
So I
And
I
that's
did
before you get into all the amps and the electronics and stuff they've got everywhere else.
I did escort some royalty, Don Felder of the Eagles.
Man.
And my man he was just basically stopping by all the booths that hook up his shows. So whoever does the cabling, he went to that
Hmm.
booth, talked to the sales rep and the manager there, the guitars, amps, all the stuff. Some sound things. He went upstairs and tried to get a custom earpiece made for. He's like, I've been standing next to Don Henley for way too long. I don't know what the hell I'm hearing anymore. So I'm like, oh, is that all? Is that all you're doing? Just
You poor
playing next to
guy. You
Don
poor
Henley?
thing.
Right? So that was kind of fun. And then he went to Seymour Duncan had a booth with guitars, and then out of the back walks Seymour Duncan. And I'm like, you're here? They dap it up and hug.
I think they're all there. Like because I've been following like a fan because I am, right.
Right.
Paul Reed Smith of PRS was there.
Oh wow. Okay.
Who else was there? Owners, a couple of other smaller companies, but yeah, the owners are there for the executive events, right? They're there for the stars and for the other owners because I'm sure like Gibson and Seymour Duncan are going to go have dinner, right? Because they've got to talk about
Right.
putting some Duncans in the next Gibson guitar or whatever.
Yeah. It was super cool. It was a fun thing to be part of, and so yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's really cool. Yeah,
I mean,
way cooler than my weekend of sitting inside the house in pajamas.
I will say I'm sore though. I walked miles upon
Oh
miles
yeah, I
upon
bet.
miles. So I mean, music encroachment is pretty cool, but Islamic encroachment,
Not as cool.
I, you know, and even
One's really cool and one really sucks.
so that's a thing that we're definitely going to get into. Does it suck?
Yeah. Spoiler alert. It
So-
sucks.
That's so funny. I mean, it's not funny,
I mean, depends on who you are.
right?
I think it also depends on where you live.
Eh, it might not be funny to even them, right?
Well, I think that it starts off being funny.
I wonder if anyone's actually amused. It doesn't, I used to make fun of like Catholic Church just because it looks boring and almost too serious. I'm like,
A
does
little stuffy.
yeah, does anyone smile ever?
Yeah.
And then I think, watching some Islamic stuff on TV, I'm like, man, the Catholics are downright hoot and hollering. Like,
Who-
uh,
The hooting leads to hollering.
yeah, I'm like, holy smokes.
I I'd made the comment to the Serena, who is our minister of our praise minister at my church, and we were talking about people really getting into the praise music and this and that. I said, hey, you know, you guys got to understand that you'll never see me with my hands up or hands out in front of me doing the hands up praise thing. And I said, it's not because I'm not into the music. I said, I was raised Southern Baptist. And then I went into the Marine Corps. Neither of these things encourages one to act frivolous and all, excited and happy and whatnot. So like, yeah, it's just not gonna be that ain't gonna be me.
I think, they do musical numbers at LDS Church all the time too. And you'll see like a family get up there. They'll do like a special music. Well, one's playing a guitar and the other's playing like some keys and somebody's singing, and they kill it, like
Mm-hmm.
nail it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's over. They wrap their stuff up and walk down. And I'd look around like, did nobody else just see that? Like,
Right?
no. So, I mean, you get used to it after 30 years of going, but it's like, and then at the end, everybody walks up to him like, hey, that was amazing. Thank you for that. That was
Yeah.
awesome. They praise them all to heck, but in the moment,
Yeah. Like that happens, we'll end a session, a set, right? But the difference is like the way our church works is when you end a set, it ends at like when service starts. So they go right into a prayer and then we walk off, right, to let the pastors do the sermon. And
right?
then we come back out at the end to do a very soft song for the altar call and communion and that kind of thing. And then we stop and bring the music back down and then, they final prayers and then cut everybody loose and then we just kind of it's very anticlimactic and then you just kind of start closing your stuff up and like you just leave and you go home.
Done. Nice work,
Yeah.
everybody. Yeah.
We might give each other a little fist bump as we're walking off the stage, but there's never anything big,
You give a
you
give a
know.
little point across, like, hey,
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, what thing you did, I saw that.
attaboy, attagirl.
Yeah.
You ready for a little lightning round?
Let's do it. I'm guaranteed to win today. So like,
Hey, that'll be one of the books for you
right.
over Brian. So I mean, for you keeping score at home
And,
because you're the only ones keeping score. So at home, please keep score because we don't know.
and this will also be, I'm going to make a prediction. I predict fastest lightning round ever.
Ooh. Ooh. All right, here we go.
Lightning round.
Number one, is Islam best understood primarily as a personal faith or as a comprehensive political legal system?
Political legal system.
Can Sharia law ever truly coexist with constitutional based law on individual liberty?
No.
Why do blasphemy and apostasy doctrines pose a direct challenge to free speech in the West?
I think that's because most advocates of free speech are actually Christians and have an assumption that the free speech is centered around the Christian belief system.
Should Western nations tolerate parallel legal systems inside their borders?
Absolutely not.
Is demographic growth being used today as a substitute for theological persuasion?
100%.
Why does pluralism require shared civic values and not just shared geography?
Pass.
Are women's rights in Islamic jurisprudence fundamentally incompatible?
Yes.
Does the presence of violent jihad texts matter, if most Muslims reject violence?
Yes,
Why do Christians face persecution in Muslim nations while Muslims receive broad tolerance in the West?
because of woke liberals.
Is this might be why it takes long because that is the answer. Is Islam's growth mainly a problem, or is Christianity's retreat the deeper issue?
I think both can be true. I think they enable and inform each other.
And that concludes the lightning round.
Let's go.
Okay, so we Matt passed on one. Was it was it just because you need me to read it again, or is there
Well,
you under
I felt like there's interpretation of the question, and then like I wanted to be a little bit more clear on how I answered it. So just run it back to me again.
why does pluralism require shared civic values? So basically, more than one religion
Yeah.
in the same
Yes.
borders. Uh,
So
why does
I
it
guess
require civic values and not just shared geography?
yeah. So I don't know that it requires shared values. What it requires is a shared agreement to operate the same way, right? So the idea, as I see it, of the United States specifically, is that we don't have to share all of the same values, but we have to start from a common place. Brian makes this point when we're talking about apologetics that if you don't both agree that the Bible is the Word of God, then there's not a lot to argue about the Bible within
Sure.
it, right? If we don't agree that the Constitution is the law of the land, there's not a lot of point to argue about the Constitution, right? If you're not here to be an American and to live by American values, whatever that means, then what are we doing? Right. And I think that's the problem. Multiple religions can certainly coexist in the United States or in the Western culture and have for quite some time. Right. Uh, Jews, Hindus, Christians, Zoroastrians, like you name it, there's been tons of religions that have coexisted together collectively under one Western political system or multiple Western political systems. It's only one of them that can't.
So do you think though that I mean, so you said you got to have same type of
There's got to be
United
there's common ground, right?
a
There, yeah,
common United States, particularly in the U.S.
yeah.
It do we struggle with that because there are so many different ideas that come in, or is it because our government or leaders tolerate such a diversion from what was yesterday, and then
I,
they just
I,
move the goalposts every time they feel it's necessary due to a new or a certain group, a minority group, to come in and kind of live in the country.
yeah, I think it's a combination of a couple of different things. I think
Okay.
one, I think Americans, the average American, has an assumption that the word religion means Christianity. And
That's
so
interesting.
whenever you talk about, I'll use Oklahoma as an example. So we have a quasi state funded Christian school system, right? And Oklahomans have no problem with it. And I do because we had a big hullabaloo about having the 10 commandments up in public spaces outside of courthouses. I think
Mhm.
it's a terrible idea. And when pressed on it, whenever I would say that to an Oklahoman, they're like, "What do you mean you have a problem with this?" And I say, "What happens whenever it's a Muslim in charge and they're trying to put Muslim documents, or they want a state-sponsored Muslim school? Are you gonna be okay with that?" And they go, "Of course not." I go, "Well then, why are you okay with this version?"
Yeah, yeah.
And so I think that's part of the problem. And then I think the other side of the problem is that the non-religious or the progressives in America see Islamic opportunities as a counterpoint to Christianity. And I think at some level, I don't think they've ever said this out loud, but I think at some level they're happy to have Islamic things cropping up in America because it's like, yeah, those Christians are finally getting what they deserve because now they see what it's like. And to some degree, they might be right.
Sure. But I also think that that's the same attitude we take toward whiteness, right?
That's that's a way to look at it. Yeah.
Every media outlet, every pundit, anyone in print can just say whatever they want about whiteness and white culture and white America. But, you know, if you were to say anything remotely similar about anybody else, then you're a damned racist and you
Yeah.
should
And,
probably burn in hell.
yeah, and that all stems from, white guilt position, right?
Sure.
Where Americans, specifically progressive Americans, walk around being, regretful that they're white and that their family's white and that they've been successful in life. And so they're looking for ways to reduce that.
Does it just boil down to being white, or is it just a power thing? So if I mean, so like 500 years from now, maybe something else is in power here in America, if it's even called that still. And then there'd be some revolution based on whiteness that are being, oppressed instead. So is it just a matter of oppressors that are vying for power and they can get people who already have power to just go ahead and capitulate because they believe somewhere in their deep dome piece that they're not ever going to lose their power anyway, or if
I,
they
I,
do,
I
it'll be
think
long after they're dead.
I think in a vacuum the answer is yes,
Sure.
but I think with regards to the specific issue we're seeing happening, it won't ever come back around because we see what's happening in Iran. The difference is, and this is kind of leading into one of your other questions, and I think it's an important question that you asked, is about whether Islam is about a religion or about a political social dominance concept, right? And it's absolutely the latter, masquerading as the former, right? So to be more clear, it is a political and social dominance theory that masquerades as a religion, not the other way around.
I think I see socialism and communism the same way. Only the non-religion is the religion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would agree with that.
And that's why that the social construct and the political actions of these people are so bullheaded and they want to get rid of all this religion.
Yeah.
And the communists that were successful in the past, especially like China, in the 50s with Mao, that was exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I want to take this opportunity real quick to make a kind of a point of
Sure.
clarification. And I think that you and I both know that most Muslims in the West do not actively campaign for national Sharia rule. So I want to put that out there that the concern is more about organized Islamist movements and not everyday Muslim neighborhoods. Um, and I think it's important to say that just because, I mean, we both know them. And
Sure.
there's plenty of people that are just supposed to be peaceful, or they want to be, and they want to just live like every day that everybody else does. But there's an uncomfortable crossover there that I don't know if you have thoughts on that
Yeah, no, I mean, I
clarification or not.
agree with you from a, just because a person is Muslim doesn't mean they want to overthrow the US government and the American way of life. I
Right.
certainly agree with that statement. However, the core goal of Islam is to do just that. And that's the problem.
So,
And
and then I wonder if people know that.
I don't think they do. And I think
And
therein lies the problem. I think there's a lot of
do
Muslims that
do Muslims know that? That was what I was
I
specifically
don't think the ones
talking
that were
about.
here ahead of time. Like, so, we've seen a lot of this Muslim immigration and whatnot, in the last, let's call it 5 years, just to
Sure.
make it a round number. There's been a lot in the last 5 years. I don't think your neighbor that your kids go to school with, that are just happen to be Muslim. I don't think they know or feel that way. They would probably, in fact, if you ask them at the PTA meeting or while you're on your next chaperone field trip, I don't think that they would say, "Oh yeah, absolutely, I want to overthrow the U.S. government," or that would they even admit that that's the goal of Islam. But the problem is when you talk to imams, when you talk to Islamic scholars, when you talk to fundamentalists, they will say, "Oh, absolutely, that's what we're trying to do," and that's the rub. I mean, people always try to throw out, oh, well, well, Christianity had its problems. What about the Crusades? I mean, that's usually where we come to, is they usually throw out the Crusades, which happened, you know, going on 1,000 years ago, um, and
Right.
and were largely in reaction to Islamic military events.
Right.
And it was a reaction and a retaliation, not a attempt for dominance. Um, so I
But there
think
was
it's
also there's some heresy killings too, but
well, sure. I mean,
in
yeah, I
yeah,
mean, but there's a big difference when you look at, the Spanish Inquisition, probably the worst of the Christian offenses
sure.
of humanity. And every Christian alive will say that was a terrible thing to do. We're glad it stopped. We wished it would have been stopped sooner. Um, I mean, to a person, like I've never met a Christian that was like, yeah, the Spanish Inquisition was lit. Never.
And I think
Have you?
no,
Have you
no,
ever
never one,
met a Christian?
never one
Right.
time, never one time, and I don't know if if they're just closeted Inquisitionists. We're like, I'm not gonna
If you are one, let us know in the comments. I mean,
yeah,
you
if you,
do it randomly or anonymously, right?
right,
Like, I'm
because I'll
just
judge you.
curious.
So, but you know, um, I think that we have this problem with overcorrection, and we see it whenever you get a new government, even here in America.
It's going on right now.
It's with I think ICE is one of the biggest
Hmm.
overcorrections that's
Yep.
happening, and
Yep.
nobody who backs the blue, backs government, backs ICE thinks that this overcorrection is okay. Anybody with any kind of actual G2 in their
Right.
brain
Right.
that are serious people, and you can't really have the conversation because people are so emotional about it, and they won't even allow the nuance. It's just evil, bad Nazis go to hell, right? Well, okay. Um, Also, I think because of things like the Inquisition, that's the point of America. They saw
To
that
not.
that
Yeah.
kind
Okay.
of
Yeah.
they saw that kind of religious tyranny, and they wanted to get away from that.
Hmm.
They wanted an ability to, be Protestant, basically. So it was
Or just to not be Catholic.
right. Or of the Quakers and Shakers. Um, so I think that we have an odd, freedom of religion that's kind of translated into freedom from religion. You have the freedom to not be talked to about religion. Like
Right.
that's not what it
Well,
says. Right.
the same thing happens when people get into the argument of the separation of church and state. Right?
Right.
Like you can't talk about this here. Separation of church and state. Well, no, separation of church and state means we can't have the Church of England, that we can't have the Church of Trump, that
Right.
Trump doesn't get to become the Pope of American Christianity. Um, you can't be
We can't have a theocratic dictator,
right,
you know,
right,
theocratic fascist dictator like Matt Walsh.
right. But that doesn't mean that, you can't have a Bible at your office, even in a federal space. That doesn't mean
That's
that you can't, pray before you eat lunch. That doesn't mean that you and coworkers can't hold a Bible study in your off time, right?
you
Like
know
all of those things are allowable.
so the show that I'm doing right now down in San Diego Convention Center is a Chick-fil-A show, and one of the funniest things that we got in our pre-convention meeting was one, the biggest takeaway was you better not bring a Pepsi product anywhere near the grounds of this place.
That's pretty funny.
But like, okay,
Does that
but
include like no Fritos and things like that? Do people
yeah,
have to be smart enough to know how big the
yeah,
Pepsi company is?
no Rockstar, no
Yeah.
Aquafina, right? Like you
Yeah.
Coke products only.
Dasani or GTFO.
That's right. It's so good. But we have an Indian Islamic guard, and he was on his break, and then he started praying. Well, one, we're not supposed to even take our break in public
Right in front
spaces
of everybody.
and
Get to
everybody.
the back.
So
Yeah.
but what's cool is that we actually have a different room, and I'm like, hey, man, we got this room. It's open for you. You can be in there all by yourself if you want to. Let me know what time, and I will close that
Hmm.
thing off, and you can do all your personal stuff that you want to
Hmm.
do. And he was super receptive to it, an older guy. So I was really glad that I didn't have that
Yeah.
confrontation. But it's also interesting because, I just told you we were at the Rockstar convention,
Hmm.
and now I'm at a Chick-fil-A convention.
Right.
So imagine the wardrobe change.
Right.
That is, they just all, modest dress.
Hmm.
Everyone, it's like cookie cutter. All
Everybody's in
the
mom jeans and
Yeah,
Skechers.
all the dudes are wearing golf pants and white shoes with a quarter zip sweater.
Yeah.
Every single one of them, and
Yeah.
it just made me laugh.
It was like an
Actually, it
SEC.
looked
It was like an SEC conference.
yeah, it looked like I couldn't tell the difference between them or Mormons, to tell you the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah. Again, the SEC,
Yeah,
like khakis and quarter zips. Yeah.
so good.
And dudes outkicking their coverage by like a factor of three.
Yes, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not a
I mean, good
not
for
not
them.
Yeah, right.
I mean, if you need the help with your handicap, I guess,
So there's probably some people watching right now that are saying, "Hey, what do you mean? What are some things? What do you mean by encroachment into the Western world, Muslims?" And there's no Sharia law. So do we have examples in
I mean, there's stories of Sharia courts all over, right? What's interesting is the minute you say it, the other side, the counter argument will be, show me on paper. Well, that's the point, that it's not on paper, right? Of course, there's not a Sharia court as decreed by the city council. But does that mean that there's not a group of senior Muslims that get together and hold court over their people that live within their city and then carry out punishments based on what they've determined within their own secondary court system? Like that's the thing that's missed when people say Sharia court. The average the uninitiated thinks that it's like a building and you can go point to it and then like there's a judge in there that's wearing a Sharia robe and then they do all these things. No, this is a unofficial black market, if you will, court system that's
well,
being held.
actually I think that it's damn Cooper Cup. It's that it's even I think it's worse than that because what they did was they found a loophole. So there's no Sharia law per se,
Right,
but there are a ton of Sharia councils on arbitration tribunals
right,
or arbitration courts.
right,
So anytime you have contract law in any Western world country, as long as both sides are consenting to the contract,
right.
you can
Well, that's my point is these people they're subjecting themselves to these court systems. They're
now.
not they're not grabbing me and dragging me in front of a Sharia court.
So that begs the
It'd be a
question
cold
too,
day in
like,
hell.
is that are the people who are being litigated against in these Sharia councils, are they being forced to do it?
Well,
Because a lot of it, like, especially if it's a woman, right? So,
right. So clinically, you would have to say no, but realistically, the answer is yes.
right, she signed the paper, but
Well, whether she
was
signed it or not, right?
right,
She was she
was
was
she
told.
coerced?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was voluntold, and that's the trick. I mean, that's the same argument to say, well, in America, all of these women are free to just refuse.
I know Canada in the 2000s they had a proposal to allow Islamic family law arbitration in Ontario's Arbitration Act. And there's a big, backlash to that. And Ontario ultimately banned religious-based family arbitration in 2006. And I think they saw that because you know what's next, right? If you do that, then
Honor
the Christian
killings and all kinds of
well
stuff,
well then
and
well then even the Christians will start their own, and you can't tell them no. Because I think that in the 2000s, if the Christians would have started it first, they would have said no.
absolutely, I would have said no. Yeah,
They wouldn't even had a debate.
yeah.
So and now like, ooh, we can't do that because what
Mm.
if?
Well, I think they were more worried about the punishments and dealing with honor killings and uh,
Right.
you know approved secondary rape. Like I've seen stories of weird situations where a woman was raped, a young woman, and to offset her rape, the attacker had to have his sister raped.
for freaking
Like, what? But this is what happens with, with belief systems that are incompatible with Western belief systems.
now. Apparently, in America, you it's just private arbitration, and usually it has to do with marriage disputes, business contracts, and
Hmm.
inheritances.
Hmm.
And all these rulings are allowed to be enforced as long as the arbitration awards don't violate any U.S. law,
Bingo.
which is where the honor killings and things of that
Yeah.
nature that you just outlined. That's where the U.S. will draw the line.
Hmm.
But if you don't violate any laws and people consent to it, then
Right. I mean,
Sharia
let's,
away.
in case anybody's confused by what we're talking about, go back and watch an old episode rerun of the People's Court. Like they do what they run a little disclaimer that you probably never noticed, and it basically says this judge and this court are not officially sanctioned by the state or county, but all parties have agreed to be held by the findings of the judge, and that's how they operate that TV show. So that's a televised version of what you're talking about.
Exactly. So, man, so I mean, Judge Judy is tough,
Yeah,
on her own. So imagine a Sharia judge.
right,
Holy smokes.
right. Well, I was thinking about what was my man's name back in the day?
Judge Joe Brown or Judge
No,
Wapner?
Wapner. That's what I was trying to
Wapner,
think of. Yeah,
the People's Court. Or even Judge Mills Lane had it for a little while.
yeah, yep,
The in case you know, he's a referee for boxing in back in the day.
yep.
Um, I think it's interesting. France, they have like a religious pressure versus secular law rule where they aggressively enforce secularism, and but at the same time they still struggle with religious enclaves and intimidation
Hmm.
and underground religious courts. So your whole black market thing is super big in
Yeah,
France,
yeah.
and uh, and these are people that refuse to recognize certain civil norms, which goes back to one of our lightning round questions, like in and the one we dealt with first, right? Pluralism. So you don't have to have the same values, but when it comes to laws, like I think you kind of do, huh?
Yeah, there's got to be common ground, and if you're not all agreeing to the common ground, then you're not part of the same organization. You're not part of the same culture. You're not part of the same. You're not the same people.
Is that why we made assimilation laws or rules?
I mean, that's why we have them. That's why we should have them, and that's why we should be better at enforcing them. 100%. Look, going back to World War I, World War II timeframes, even the great all of the Chinese immigrations that happened back in the late 1700s, early 1800s. Um, they certainly brought their own cultures. They brought their own language. They brought their own religions. They brought their own dialects, their own ways. But at the end of the day, they had to identify as an American, and that's all. That's to me. That's all that should be asked. Like, a New York Italian immigrant has a very specific culture, and no one's suggesting that they shouldn't. A bunch of Sudanese immigrants come over. They're going to have a very different culture, different cuisine, different everything, different language. But at the end of the day, they're Americans now, and there should be at least an expectation of aligning to a certain amount of Americanism at the end of the
You,
day.
it seems to me, especially when we talk about mass migration, when you have these communities, when we're talking about 50, 100,000, they kind of come over within a couple of years. So it just happens in a flash, like a flash
Hmm.
flooding.
Hmm.
And I think one of the problems with that and then not requiring assimilation is that they just bring whatever value where it is they came
Hmm.
from. So these people who come from a hellhole, right? And the whole purpose of them coming in the first place is to get to a place where they have opportunity.
Hmm.
Now, if you bring the culture with you from that place that sucks, and that's all you know, and say a politician comes along and caters to that mentality,
One might
and
say
you just,
pander.
yeah, yeah, right, then now here we are with just basically bringing whatever it is they ran from because that's all they know,
Right.
right? Especially when we talked about if we talk about like the 80s and 90s when we had a bunch of socialism people that defect and come over. Well, if they all come over at the exact same time and all they know is socialism and the government providing things, and then they're going to request that and
Right.
they're
We're
going
gonna
to
have a
vote for
hard
that.
time
So
changing their
any
headspace.
so any politician pandering to them saying that we can, get you these things, the government will give it to you, then they're going to vote for it
Hmm.
because that's what they know.
Yep. We've got that going on in Oklahoma right now. We've got a state bill that's attempting to get on our. They're trying to get the signatures for
Mm.
a vote, and it's jungle primary.
Oh, wow.
You know where that's going, right? California used to not have a jungle primary. Look what happened. And so, like, that's the big counter messaging that they keep using is don't California or Oklahoma, right? Um, because
I
it's
mean,
it's a great case in point of what would happen if it did. And going all the way back to, was it Plato? So Plato or Socrates, one of the two, made a commentary about how dangerous democracy was. And I'm paraphrasing the quote, and I'm not. I'll look up who actually said it. But basically, the point was the minute that people understand that they can vote in their own best interests, they will.
right.
And that's why a republic is a superior form of government to a true democracy.
Because democracy is, five wolves and a sheep, deciding what they want to have for dinner.
Yep,
We have this mob rule, and it's tough to come back out of that.
absolutely.
So how does that so does that kind of lead our way into like these huge large influx of a religion that's not compatible with American ideals?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's it's not a religion; it's the religion that's incompatible with American ideals, right? Because, like I said earlier, like I just can't be. I can't tiptoe around this conversation topic. It's not the other religions that are a problem because they've been here, and we've migrated large numbers of people from other countries with different religious belief systems, and they've never been a problem to the American model, to the American way. It's only been in the last 5, 10 years when we had these mass migrations of Islamic refugees, and I'm using that word loosely. And by the way, I want to address that. I do think there are many Islamic immigrants that are attempting to flee from places like Syria, where it's war torn and it's hard to live. I'm sure there are many Palestinians that have come here, that have came here simply to escape the ravages of the war that's going on the West Bank. And to those people, I am supremely and totally empathetic to. The problem is that there are also many Islamic immigrants that are here simply to attempt to gain a foothold into the American political system such that they are able to start making changes to our way of life. And have said as much. And so that's really where this becomes problematic. There are definitely genuine refugees that happen to be Muslim. And then there are definitely a material amount of mass immigrants who are attempting to bring Islam to America and convert our legal system to Sharia.
Much like the Soviet Union would send people to infiltrate our politics to make us all communists,
It's
or
almost like we had a dude warn us of this after the fall of the Soviet Union back in the mid '80s.
China would purposefully send 8 month pregnant women on vacation or
Mm-hmm.
with some kind of work visa. They'd have a baby and that child's American.
There was a case I found. I think I might have shared it with you guys, where there was a hotel or a motel rather. I forget where it was, somewhere in America, in the U.S., and it was full of Chinese mothers that were pregnant, and they basically turned this motel into a maternity ward, and they had Chinese state-paid nurses uh, that were going from room to room like they were housekeeping and they were, helping the women have their babies.
China is the long game, baby.
Man,
They
man.
they play the long game. They
Yeah.
can see it
And
miles and miles
listeners, look
away.
that up. Like, don't take my word for it. Like Google it. Google Chinese maternity ward in motel. I guarantee you'll find hits because it's a real thing.
So putting my tinfoil hat on, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but New York City in particular, pre 9/11, there wasn't the enclave of
Mm-mm.
Islamic immigrants.
Nope.
After 9/11, it it just, I mean, we're like 1,000% over that now.
It's considerably large in the fact
And
that they just elected a mayor.
yeah, we go to all of these wars and we intervened in the Middle East so much. We had to know the refugees would be coming. Was it done on purpose? Was it the cabal of globalists that they kind of want this to happen? And how powerful is the oil in the Middle East that they would want this to happen? That's the tinfoil hat part of it. Was it foreseen? And did anyone actually care?
I, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think somebody knew, right? Because the people that are orchestrating what's happening now can see it. So somebody saw it. The question is, was it within America? Was it some cabal within the US?
Right.
Or was it an external force? Is this some kind of like long con by the Palestinian Mossad
So did they,
that's
right?
been trying to pull this off, right? Like, I don't
Clearly
know.
the Jews did it. It was
Or
the
was
Jews.
it that, right? Like, I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
I don't know why that would be beneficial to them, but like,
But you mean right? Of the race is going to die
if
first.
we're going to
It's
pull out tinfoil hats, we might as well just like start there, right?
right. I um so is JW or GW, is he just a useful idiot in this? Hey, Dick Cheney's in office. We can make him a bunch of money. He'll persuade G Dubs to go ahead and do this thing, and then we can have our foothold in America.
Yeah. I mean,
Because there was no reason for all of the refugees until we started killing mofos over there.
yeah. Um, I don't know. I asked ChatGPT real quick on Islamic percentages. It said it's a really tough number to aggregate, but in 2001, early 2000s, it called it 3%. Today, it says it's upwards of 9%, so tripled. So not not the thousands percent, but definitely a lot more.
Hmm. And they're outbreeding us.
That's not even a conversation. Uh, Last time I saw, I think we might have talked about it on this show before. Birth rate's a really serious number, and I never really thought about it a lot or paid much attention to it. The standard number is a three per, right? So every family is supposed to have three kids in order to comfortably maintain a civilization. That's just kind of, I guess, science,
Sure.
anthropology, I
It's just
guess, is probably the
numbers.
right. Um, Western Europe is at like 1.8 and America's like 2.1, 2.2. We're really low. My fault. My bad. I only had two. Um, Dre, you only had three, so we
I
didn't
only had
balance
three.
each
I'm
other
I'm
out.
I'm
So
right at
yeah,
I'm right at the
so you and me made it 2-5. So like, there's that, but then Brian drags us down. So like,
damn it, Brian.
right,
Mount Hermeneutics is low on the replacement.
right. But globally, across Western Europe and the United States, Muslim immigrants are at like 11, 12. They're monstrously high, um, and you know the Islamic apologist can say, well, it's just because they're poor and they're focused on their families and blah blah blah. Well, it's certainly not because they're affluent and have access to great housing and whatnot. So the idea that they're having these levels of babies and in suboptimal conditions is somewhat impressive. Like, I'm not mad at
Right.
him for that. But when you think about, from a repopulation and a population replacement concept, that's not really even up for debate at this point.
You know,
Um, I
it's
think I
funny
think the
because
numbers that I saw say that France specifically will be Muslim majority by 2040. And guys, that's 15 years from now. In 15 years, the nation of France will be a Muslim country. Um, and then, Western Europe, the rest of Western Europe's not far behind them. Our numbers are a little bit different because we have the benefit of having a pretty strong Mexican American population that's on pace to outpopulate the Caucasian population in the United States, which doesn't really bother me because they're Americans.
Right, right.
You know,
So that's my question too. My next question is, so why is that not okay?
well, it's not okay if you value the American way of life, right? Because of all the things we said earlier. If Islam is,
Or the French way of life, or the Irish way of life,
yeah,
or England.
yeah.
Is
Um,
England even recognizable?
London's not, you know. It's just a conversation of, I mean, it's all relative in fairness, right? there's
Sure.
not there's not an objective culture. Objectively, culture should all be X. Obviously, this show and we being who we are, we can say that objectively, we want the world to be more Christian, not less Christian. So that is certainly a bad thing. But if you're coming at this from a non-religious point of view, and it's just a cultural point of view, you know, what's, good is good, bad is bad. What does that mean? Um, if you're a human rights fan, it's not good. There's no country on earth that's Muslim that has a great human rights record. Um, there's some that are getting better, right? Saudi Arabia, Qatar are making efforts to be better. So you got to give credit where credit's due. Are they hiding things? That's a different conversation. Um, but are they leading the world? Absolutely not. Who does? Western Christian based societies are where civil human rights are at the forefront. Japan is probably the other outlier there. Um, but
But their
it
birth rate is super
super
low
low,
too.
super low. China's is like below one, if I'm not mistaken. The last I
And
just
and
was reading
and
something
and it
about their
has been
current
because
birth
they
rate.
thought they were so overpopulated. So
Right,
they did it on
that one,
purpose.
and they did a one and done thing, and it
Yeah.
was crazy.
And people were like killing girls. We needed a boy. I remember, 5 years ago there was a conservative joke about abortion. Like, well, actually just let all the liberals abort all their babies and we'll just outproduce them and
That was me.
yes.
I
I
said
mean, it
that.
was you did, but it was kind of a theme on, podcasts and,
Yeah.
shows and Fox News said it a couple times. Um, but even 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 the conservative folks in America aren't outpacing the immigrants.
So it looks like I did a quick lookup to try to give some numbers on the birth rate thing. I don't know. I'm gonna have to come back to that because it's not giving me what I wanted to see. But as an example, South Korea is zero point 0.8 to 1. Um, Japan's 1.3 and falling. The US, this is saying 1.618. What did I say? 1.8? Is
Yeah,
that what
when
I
I
said? Just below
yeah.
2. Yeah. Niger is at 6. Kind of crazy. But yeah, it's problematic. It's greatly problematic. Now, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, we need low birth rate because the planet and the WHO and you know Thanos was right and all that kind of stuff, right? But that doesn't work with regards to cultures continuing, right? There's a difference between sheer volume and sustainability, and then sustainability of a culture.
I don't understand, the modern left in America or even in the Western world that they want to move toward this revolution so bad that they're willing to give up our culture for it to create their own culture, right? To create
They
the
want to
new thing.
trade. They want to swap
Right.
cultures. Yeah.
But I don't understand why inserting this one helps their cause. In fact, I think you're more able to convince, persuade, transform the culture that we have a lot more than what they're allowing to take strongholds and places like Minnesota and Michigan. I don't. Maybe somebody can explain that to me. Maybe somebody in the comments can say, "Hey,
I
no,
can't.
this is why this would be." And
Yeah, the only argument that I can come up with is because it's better than what we have because white people are bad. White Christians are terrible, and so anything that's not white Christian would be good. That's the only argument that I can think of that could even be not that I would agree with it, but that would
right.
be reasonable in view of what we're seeing happen.
So it's okay to move even further to the right just because they're not white.
Because it doesn't feel like it's moving to the right because it's away from white. No, I'm
That's,
being serious. Like
I know that blows my mind that that's even a thought in somebody's head.
yeah.
That that's something
Um,
that they
I,
would
I
fight
had
for, that they would protest for.
I had made the comment a while back that somehow there was a really neat trick that the left pulled. Well, I say the left, it's not even the left. Somehow Muslims pulled a neat trick on the world when they convinced the left that Islam is the religion for brown people and women, for minorities.
Oh,
That's essentially what happened at some point.
oh wow.
Because what else makes sense? Why would a bunch of white progressive women root for their own oppression? All that the left has done, the women have screamed about the Handmaid's Tale, how that's going to become a reality in America under Trump, when they're actively fighting to institute those very societal controls. It's it's fascinating to me, not in a good way.
I just think because it's kind of like when I watch protests and how they want to tear stuff down, but no one ever tells me what they want to replace it with.
Hmm.
Never one time. Nobody ever tells me what the goal is of their
Yep.
protest. The goal is always, this is bad, I want you to stop. Okay, then what's the alternative? Every time I hear a politician ever on either side make a speech and say, I want to institute this thing, usually I'm like, cool. How? How do you propose to do that?
Hmm.
And what does that look like? And what are the second, third order effects to that?
Hmm.
And
That's the real question. Second and third order effects. No one ever wants to talk about those. Healthcare reform. No one says our healthcare is good.
right,
The question is, how do we fix it? Like, what do the steps look like? And all you hear people scream are the trite one-liners of universal payer, universal healthcare, um, single payer. Okay, how and what does that look like?
cool. What's the
And,
pros and cons of
and
that?
have you ever been to the VA?
Right.
Yeah, it's a trip.
Like, no, really, have you ever been to the VA?
Right.
Like, like, have you ever been to the DMV? And
Because that's
and I,
that's what you that's what you get.
personally, I think that our healthcare system is the worst of both worlds, and we should probably pick one and figure out what that looks like. But
What do you mean the worst of both worlds?
because it's so government subsidized and so private,
Oh,
and it's for profit. Anytime you have something that's in healthcare or the prison system that's a for profit thing, which purposefully keeps people sick or in jail, then we have a problem. Anytime that we get more people in a place or an institution, and that's how we make money. The fact that we have uh, you know, boards that get pissed if the hospital's not profiting, that is a problem. And it's an instant what do you call when there's conflict and when you're the term is explained a
you talking about
conflict of interest. It's a conflict of
you
interest.
have conflicting priorities where
Yeah,
it's like
like
is our number one goal to service the patient, or is our number one goal to make money? You can't do both at the same time,
it's
right?
kind of like if you're a therapist. Look, if you're a good therapist, you should have two sessions, and a guy should never ever want to see another therapist again. But he
Right,
keeps coming back to you for 10 years.
right.
Like, either
Or
get a new therapist or
I
you
think
suck.
chiropractic is the best example of that kind of a situation.
Sure.
Because they're like, okay, we got you all set. So what we're going to need you to do is come back once a week for maintenance sessions. What?
Right.
Yeah. I
Like,
mean, I get what you're saying, kind of going down a rabbit hole to talk about the healthcare system and for-profit institutions. I mean, I think some of the most efficient organizations on planet Earth are really well-run corporations. Um, you mentioned earlier, I think Chick-fil-A is a pretty well-run company, right? Like no one ever leaves a Chick-fil-A and goes, man, I'm never going there again.
yeah, but Chick-fil-A is not created to halt world hunger. They're there because there's a product, people dig the product, and people pay for the
Right,
product.
right.
I think as far as is any organization that's for profit in that manner, then yeah, I'm all for it.
So what if that's how healthcare operated?
Healthcare
What?
can't operate that
Why
way
not?
because you can't people don't get sick always and not in the same manner
Well,
or the same
what what
ability to pay.
what if payment wasn't the problem, right? What if there was a streamlined capability so that when people came in, they didn't have the problem? Because to me, I'm gonna turn this to a really long conversation. I don't want to because it's not useful
Yeah,
for the
true.
topic.
It's not what we're talking
But
about.
but broadly, the insurance is the problem in healthcare, not the providers.
Okay.
The insurance is the part of the quotient that breaks everything. Homeowners insurance, automobile insurance, none of those are efficient, clean, Six Sigma lean organizations, right? And so I mean, let me give you an example. Here's what I know about the home insurance, real estate. So once upon a time, I was a part owner of a roofing company. Roofing companies, the roofing industry is 100% controlled by big insurance. Okay. State Farm, etc. So much so that every year, State Farm specifically comes out and says for 2026, here are the specs for how we're paying for roofs. If somebody needs a new roof, here's what we will pay to remove shingles. Here's what we will pay to add shingles. Here's what we will pay for the shingles. These are now your guidelines. Have fun with that. Roofing companies, shingle manufacturers, and material wholesalers now have to set their pricing to live within the model that the insurance company just dictated. Because 90 some odd percent of all roofs are done under insurance claims.
Mm.
So, like, if you're a roofing company, you can't charge more than State Farm will pay. Similarly, if you're Collision King, you can't charge more to put a front end back on a car than State Farm will pay. And if you're Dr. Schnellenberg, you can't charge more for a vasectomy than United Health will pay.
Except that it is government subsidized and the price just gets jacked up all the time.
That's yeah. So there
That's
now
what
we're
I mean by the
yeah.
worst of both worlds.
Yeah, no, and I agree with you on that part. And that's why I'm saying if we took the insurance out of the equation and got back to real prices, um, I mean it's a known fact that you can walk into a doctor's office and say, "Hey, do you guys do cash pricing?" And they go, "Yeah." And you go, "Okay, how much for a cash price to have, whatever procedure done?" And they give you a number. And let's say it's $200, but if you walked in with an insurance claim, they would try to bill the insurance like $4,500 for that same procedure.
It's insane to me.
It's all insanity. And oh, by the way, I don't know how we got to this topic in this conversation, so I don't know how to get us back.
Does the presence of violent jihadist texts matter, even if most Muslims reject violence?
Yeah, because how do you differentiate what they truly believe versus what they don't truly believe? It's well known that Islam supports a concept where they're allowed to lie to further their religion. And so, how do we know when they're lying about what they support and what they don't support versus what they are? Um, we were kicking around a video where some person was trying to use the Old Testament and the Christian Bible as a counter to that very discussion point. That, well, it says in the Old Testament that you could stone people, and the guy in the conversation said, "When was the last time a Christian stoned somebody?" Well, but it's in the text. Right. But the reality is you don't understand the text you're reading, because there are reasons why Christianity moved on from some of those laws and some of those
Right.
systems of existence. Islam has not moved on from anything.
It's like,
Now,
psst, you don't actually go by all the Old Testament rules.
right.
There's a whole other testament.
Yeah. Unless you're a Jew, in which case
Right.
you're supposed to, by the way.
Like if you're a Jew, why haven't you stoned anyone?
Right. Like there's a lot going on. You should be stoning people over. That's a different conversation, but we're not here to
Right.
we're not
Maybe we'll do
Hebrew
one of them too.
apologists.
I don't know.
Maybe we should.
Maybe we should. I mean,
Um,
we just piss them all off.
but certainly Christianity has an evolutionary point. His name was Jesus, and he's kind of a big deal. Um, Now, to the credit of an Islamic scholar, they would say that our religion's more pure because it hasn't evolved. That's a fair point.
It is a fair point.
So that means you believe all the things that the Quran says, and then you have to own that. So it's like, I can respect the statement, and I can respect the purity, game recognized game, but then you have to own up to all the things that your text says, and you don't get to lawyer your way out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. What he said. What? So I guess, is Islam's growth mainly the problem, or is Christianity's retreat an even deeper issue?
Yeah. I know how Brian would answer it,
Uh-huh.
and I don't know that I disagree, but I'm not sure I fully agree with that. Brian is, would certainly say it's Christianity's fault that we've taken a back seat. We're allowing it to happen, et cetera. And he's right, but I think in my opinion, it's for a subtly different reason. I mean, Islam's supposed to do what Islam's supposed to do. They're supposed to Islam, right? Islam
Right.
gonna Islam. And but Christianity's supposed to Christianity, and we're not. And if we were Christianity in as hard as we could, then there wouldn't be an Islamic expansion, because we wouldn't have the vast woke left opening the door going, come on in. Right? The kimono would not be open. The kimono would be closed, because we would say, why would we change our rules? Like, our rules are good, they're fair, they're just. And that's not to say that they would be Christian fundamentalist laws. The original laws that we have should be more than enough. So I think that's kind of I think I come right down in the middle with my leaning towards it's Christianity's fault. But that's also my personality. I'm not real big on blaming somebody else for my problems.
Right.
Um,
Right.
it's like, this is America's problem to deal
Is
with.
which is a constitutional problem.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing with the Constitution?
Yeah.
And why do we keep expanding the Constitution to interpret other things?
Hmm.
Um, what if America treated Islam the same way we treat Christianity?
Yeah.
I think it would work.
Yeah. It could.
Like,
It works in
you,
Singapore.
yeah, you can't just run around doing things because you're Christian if they break the law,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah,
like,
I've been to Singapore, and I've seen a Turkish Muslim restaurant right next to an Indian Hindu restaurant, and they got along. You know why? Because they'd beat them with sticks if they didn't get along. If the Muslims decided they were going to stop cars in the street by praying, first of all, they would just get ran over,
I mean,
and
yeah,
nobody would care. And
right.
then if they caused an accident, then they would beat them with sticks. And there's a big part of me that wishes we would just start beating people with sticks in America. Um,
I mean, we could put it on pay-per-view, and it would make a lot of money for all the people that we need to
man,
feed.
man,
All the all
I
the
would,
charities.
I would sign
Like,
up
the victim of, whoever, get is, was perpetrated against, and that person gets sticked, gets to choose the charity of their choice to
for all the pay-per-view
for
dollars
all
to
the
go to.
pay-per-view dollars. It's
I,
kind of
I,
like the Running Man, but worse.
yeah,
Like,
better,
or
way
or
better, way
better,
better.
way
Yeah,
better. Yeah,
nobody
right.
dies. You
Right.
get to learn a lesson.
That's right. I mean, it hurts like
It's
hell.
humane. I would start an
Absolutely.
entire new martial art form. just around sticking people.
You become a certified sticker.
Walk around. I would actually have the stick on me at all times as I walk around the streets.
You have impromptu judges.
I'd be nothing but playing the Bee Gees as I walk through town.
Swing your stick, twirling it
I'd
on your
get done beating a
shoulder.
guy, and they'd be like, Matt, what are you going to do now? Strut.
Oh boy. I mean, hey, we have you have something you have save rounds, you have things
No, I don't.
that were you were hankering to talk about
No,
here.
I mean, I just felt like, so this conversation point came up. Um, Bixby, Oklahoma was voting on approving a big Islamic center with a mosque and whatnot. And it had to be voted on by City Hall, and it got voted down. And then there was another one in Oklahoma City that came up to be voted on, and it was voted down. And it starts this conversation of, what's back to what I said earlier, what's good for the goose is good for the gander at some level. But at the same time, I just don't want those centers. I don't want that expansion in my towns. Right. And the reason I care about Bixby is that's where my daughter lives, um, up near Bryan. Um, but, I also recognize that there's a very strong, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Double standard, right? Because if they wanted to put a big Christian center in, I'd have no problem with it.
Right.
And
So
it's because of the cultural normative changes that would occur due to the other, and it's just not something that that I'm willing to accept because they're not willing to play nice. In my opinion, they're why we can't have nice things.
mm, yeah, and then it's hard to be principled
Yeah.
when that is your so is are there conditions we can put on like an Islamic center?
I I don't think the conditions are on the center. The conditions are on the people. Like they've got to stop praying in the streets and doing all of these public demonstrations that are problematic, and they have to they're asking for double standards where they don't want to hear church bells praying because it offends them, but they're going to have their call to prayer broadcast. This is what's happening in Minnesota. um, those are the kinds of double standards that seem unreasonable in their direction. And so both sides are being unreasonable. And at the end of the day, just to be honest, if I'm going to be unreasonable, I'm going to be unreasonable for my culture and my way of life.
So could there be an Islamic center without people praying in the streets?
Absolutely, there could be.
So that's what I'm saying. What are the restrictions? We have laws, or Bixby has its own laws. Um, can we stay principled where there's a large enough community to have this religious center without spilling off
Yeah, but
in,
again, I was saying it in jest, but I'm being kind of serious. We'd kind of have to be willing to beat people with sticks. Because at some level, immigrant people, third world country people only respond to certain types of governmental force. And that's part of the problem that we're not addressing in the West is we don't operate with a strong enough hand to ensure that the order of law is upheld. And
I
we
mean,
don't and we don't
it's
because we're afraid of being called an Islamophobe.
well, I mean, we don't even for our own protesters.
Right. Hence
Like
what's
there's
going on in Minnesota right now.
right. I mean, you have to upset the right people for it to work. For example, the Golden Gate Bridge was blocked by some protesters, which
That's a big deal traffic wise in the
right,
Bay
which
Area, for
which
those that don't know.
messed up the Bay Area commerce and how the city runs. So all those people got charged with kidnapping,
Yo,
right? So
that's good stuff right there. For
so
people that
I'm
don't know, the Golden Gate Bridge essentially is like everybody that lives in the Bay Area has to come across the Golden Gate Bridge to go to work every day. So when you block that, you're literally blocking work traffic, like all of it.
and especially we start talking about first responders, police
Hmm.
officers, and ambulances and fire trucks. It'd be just like blocking a bus. So it's interesting. There's a law in Okinawa when I was driving there, and they warned you like, hey, If you get in a car accident with a city bus, your litigation is with everybody that rides that bus.
Every
Every
single person individually.
every single wage they lost, any kind of
Yeah.
injury that they had, and not just the city and not just the bus, but anybody who lost anything on that bus, you are now responsible for.
Basically, that's a class action lawsuit.
And not to mention, you as an American are considered a professional
Yeah.
driver, which means that every single accident, whether it's your fault or not, is your fault,
Yeah.
at least at some kind of percentage.
From a starting point. That's the start.
That's
The
right.
start is you're 100% wrong, and then you've got to work your way to something better than
But
100%.
because that's laid out in the beginning, and we know that, people mind their P's and Q's when they drive. And I think that we've gotten so loose on this protesting and hating the government and that's not laid out.
Yeah.
Back in the day, they used to expect to get arrested. Like that was a thing. And now if you arrest somebody, it's pearl clutching.
Yeah.
And
You're right. It goes back to I've mentioned this before when I was a kid growing up in Oklahoma. Um, the Oklahoma City Police, I don't know if they even actually did it, but all kids my age, because their older brothers told them, right? Who told you, hey, if you ever run from Oklahoma City cops, when they catch you, and they will, they're going to take you under the river, under the bridge at the river, and they're going to beat you half to death before they book you. Every teenager in the metro area of Oklahoma grew up believing this. So when lights flashed behind you, you pulled over
right, right.
because what you didn't want to have happen was get drug under a bridge and beat half to death. It's funny how the fear of being beat makes people act right, but somehow the fear of being shot makes them want to shoot back. It's a
Right.
really strange phenomenon.
Or they know that if one person's shot, then it's gonna spawn a whole, you know,
Cascade of events.
right. When really we should just arrest fools. Just start putting them away
Well,
and have minimum sentences before they even get to trial.
or beat
That's
them,
that's what
or
I
just
mean.
beat them.
That's what that's probably easier.
I I mean, if you told me, hey, you can go protest, but as soon when you if you cross this line, we will instantly put cuffs on you, drag you over there, and beat you with a stick. I would not cross that line.
Right.
In fact, you could not get me across that line.
Somebody come across. I'm like, nope, you're
Guys would
getting
be trying to
beat.
push me from behind, and I'm like fighting back upstream. Like,
No, I was. In fact, you don't even you stay on the third row so that you're not on the line.
right. I might push somebody else over
Right.
just to watch him get beat.
That's crazy. So yeah, basically we just need new laws. Yeah,
Or
we
we
can
need to be better with
coexist.
the ones we have.
Right.
We need to
But
mean it. We need to
right,
stop accepting bad behavior. And we need Americans broadly to stop living with an entitled mentality that that they
right.
can just decide to pick and choose what they do and don't do.
Which to me, we need to enforce all the laws that we have.
Yeah,
And if we have laws that are not worth enforcing, we need to get rid of them.
absolutely. That too. I'd be a huge fan of that. Like if it's not worth enforcing, if we're not willing to enforce it, then don't even talk about it.
Then why
It's
why is it on the books?
I talk about that with my dog training, with my service dog programs when I was in canine training. I talk about it with young parents. And I learned it kind of a Marine Corps thing, but never give an order that you're not capable and willing to enforce.
Right. That's what I tell young parents all the time. Somebody have like a small child
Hmm.
and they hear that I have adult children.
Hmm.
And I just say, the first thing is n- never do or say anything that you're not going to actually follow through on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't
Right.
tell them you're going to ground them for a month. But you can't because they're about to have graduation party and you're not going to, and you don't have the
Right.
balls to follow through on that. Don't tell them you're going to spank them if you're not really going to spank them.
Right.
Like,
Back in the 80s, like, I'll break your arm. Like, you're not going to break your child's
right.
arm.
So don't say that.
Don't say it. That's right.
Yeah. One time I told Austin I would beat him until his ears got small.
He probably believed you.
Well,
So,
I also had the ability to be like, I think I saw him shrink. Okay, I'm good.
yeah, right,
Because he was only like 5.
right. So, so to me, I think, government should be much the same. Stop saying things that we're not going to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if we
Yeah.
are going to do them, we need to do them.
And do them like quickly. not in some
Yes.
drawn out process. There shouldn't be, two different sets of rules for the rich and for the non-rich, all those things.
So who should really be hated in America? Lawyers, I think maybe.
I said insurance companies, but it has nothing to do with
It,
the
it's
show.
insurance companies because they have so many lawyers.
Oh, that too.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so did we solve
I mean,
Islamic
100%. 100%.
encroachment?
Absolutely.
So if you agree with anything we said, just go ahead and tell us. If you disagreed with anything we just said, you know, go ahead and tell us.
But
If you
regardless,
gotta
like
tell
and
us,
subscribe.
right? And just go ahead and I mean, if there's a mixture, hey, let's know we did well, and let's know we did bad. And with that, if you have nothing else, Matthew,
Oh.
stay enlightened, stay curious, and we will see you next week. God bless.